Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn about History Chapter 1, Tracing Changes Through 1,000 Years. In our last class, we have learned about Map 1, Map 2, and historians and their sources. In this class, we will discuss about new social and political groups. Students, in this concept, we are going to study about what are the changes took place during 700 Common Era and 1750 Common Era and how the changes have been happened. In this period, many technologies like Persian wheel in irrigation, the spinning wheel in weaving, and firearms in combat made their appearance. The subcontinent saw the new food like potatoes, corn, chilies, tea, and coffee. This was also a period of great mobility. Groups of people traveled long distances in search of opportunity. One group of people who became important in this period were the Rajputs, a name derived from Rajaputra, the son of a ruler. They were Kshatriyas by caste. They included the rulers, chieftains, soldiers, and commanders. Extreme valor and great sense of loyalty were the prominent qualities of this community. Marathas, Sikhs, Jats, Ahoms, and Kayasthas were the other prominent classes of people. The period witnessed a gradual clearing of forest and extension of agriculture. It caused changes in people's habitat which forced many of the forest dwellers to migrate to other places. Some possessed more protective land and others also kept cattle, and some combined artisanal work with agricultural activity. Moving on to understand Jatis and Jati Panchayat. Jatis were the subcaste which were grouped on the basis of economic and social status. They were ranked as per their backgrounds and their occupations. Ranks were not fixed permanently. They framed their own rules and regulations. Next, Jati Panchayat. Jati Panchayat was the assembly of elders which controlled the conduct of the members of their Jati. They had their own rules and regulations. What do you mean by Jati Panchayat? Jati Panchayat was the assembly of elders which controlled the conduct of the members of their Jati. They framed their own rules and regulations. Next, Prashastis. Prashastis often written by learned Brahmanas. A Sanskrit Prashastis praising the Delhi Sultan Ghiyasuddin Balban. His empire was stretched from Bengal in the east to Ghazni in the west. It also included all of South India. Next, we will discuss about pan-regional rule. The term pan-regional was used in the sense of the areas of empires spanning different regions. The dynasties like Cholas, Khaljis, Tughlaqs, and Mughals extended their empires pan-regional. When the Mughal Empire declined in the 18th century, it led to the re-emergence of regional states. But years of imperial pan-regional rule had altered the character of the region. Now, we will discuss about old and new religions. The 1,000 years of history that we are exploring witnessed Major developments in religious traditions. The changes were seen in the people's beliefs. The important changes occurred in Hinduism. These included the worship of new deities, the construction of temples by royalty, and the growing importance of Brahmanas, the priests, as dominant groups in society. For their knowledge of Sanskrit text, Brahmanas earned great respect in society. The new rulers were their patrons. Students, patrons means an influential, wealthy individual who supports another person, an artist, a craft person, a learned man, or a noble. One of the major developments of this period was the emergence of the idea of bhakti, of a loving personal deity that devotees could reach without the aid of priests and elaborate rituals. The teaching of the Holy Quran was brought to India in the 7th century by the migrants. Quran is the holy book of the Muslims. Like Hinduism, Islam was also interpreted in many ways, and the followers of Islam were divided in two subsections, Shias and Sunnis. Ali was the leader of the Shia Muslim community. Khalifa was the leader of the Sunni Muslim community. Moving on to understand thinking about time and historical periods. In the middle of the 19th century, British historians divided the history of India into three periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British. This division was based on the idea that the religion of rulers was the only important historical change, and that there were no other significant developments in the economy, society, or culture. So, periodization means division of time into different segments for the purpose of study from the history point of view. It was done on the basis of dominant factors of the time. In the middle of the 19th century, British historians divided the history of India into three periods: Hindu, Muslim, and British. Let us recall cartographer, the artist who is skilled in drawing or making maps; chronicler, one who writes history or pens down the events of time from the history point of view; archives, a collection of historical documents or records of government, a family, a place, or an organization; manuscripts, the original script written by the author in his own handwriting. Next, Jati. Jati means the subcaste which was defined or identified on the basis of one's profession, status, and influence. Periodization. Periodization means division of time into different segments for the purpose of study from the history point of view. It was done on the basis of dominant factors of the time. Next, Hindustan. The term Hindustan is now India. Listen to it. The term Hindustan was first used by Minhaj-i-Siraj. He was a Persian chronicler. He used the term Hindustan for the first time in the 13th century. He used the term to mean the areas of Punjab, Haryana, and the lands between the Ganga and Yamuna. But the term never included South India. Later in the 16th century, Babur, while using this term, to describe the geography, the fauna, and the culture of the inhabitants of the subcontinent. A 14th century poet Amir Khusro also used the term Hind almost in the same sense. The remarkable point is that while the idea of geographical and cultural entity like India did exist, the term Hindustan did not carry the political and national meanings that we associate with it today. Moving on to understand the next term foreigner. Students, foreigner means someone who is not an Indian. Am I right? But in the medieval period, foreigner was any stranger who was a part of the same village but not a part of a particular society or culture. In this sense, forest dweller was a foreigner for a city dweller. But two peasants living in the same village were not foreigners to each other. They may have different religious or caste backgrounds. Next, historians and their sources. Historians means a person who studies history or who is expert in history. Coins, inscriptions, architecture, and textual records are the basis sources used by the historians to study the past. Coins helps us to understand the economic condition of a kingdom. Inscriptions are the written records engraved on stones, pillars, copper plates, wall of the temples and monuments. Next, manuscripts. Manuscripts are usually written on palm leaves and the barks of birch tree. Manuscripts are collected from wealthy people, rulers, monasteries, and temples. They were placed in libraries and archives. Archives means a place where documents and manuscripts are stored.